Hello, welcome to the Paid Search Association webinar. Today we have Jyll Saskin Gale, who I am lucky enough to say is one of my friends, but also such an inspiration in the Google Ads system of experts. She owns her own company. She is a trainer in Google Ads. You can visit her website. She is on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere, training people on Google Ads. And we are so happy to have her here today. Also, this webinar, it's brought to you by Jumpfly, Clever Programmatic, and Ad World Experience. We are very appreciative of our sponsors because we would not be here without them. So without further ado, I'm going to pop off stage and let Jyll get started. Thank you, Jyll.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thrilled to be here today with Paid Search Association to talk about creating great ad assets in an AI-first world. So as Sarah mentioned, I'm a marketing coach, trainer, consultant. I used to work at Google for 6 years. I left nearly 3 years ago now and run a business teaching people how to use Google Ads more effectively. Very excited to be here today talking to you about a topic very near and dear to my heart. So let's dive in. How do we create great ad assets in an AI-first world? Well, in 2024, you may have heard people say this before, but the ads themselves are more important than ever. Bidding is automated and has been for some time, which means that everyone has access to the same advanced bidding capabilities. And of course, targeting is getting more and more automated. Keywords are going away faster and faster as we get close variants, search term themes, etc., audience signals, and optimized targeting, right? So everyone has access to these same targeting tools. And while the ads themselves may be responsive in using AI to put different building blocks together, the building blocks of those ads, the assets still come from you. Whether you're uploading them into Google Ads, whether Google Ads is getting them dynamically from your website, whether it's from your social media, whether your graphic designer is putting it there, you are still the one who informs that creative, and therefore you determine whether or not that creative is successful. It's one of the few competitive advantages you really have in Google Ads. So for our presentation today, I wanted to give you 15 practical, tangible tips to improve your text, image, and video creative. Let's dive in. And as we're going through, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to type it into the chat. After the presentation, we're going to have a panel discussion where you can ask your questions as well. So type them in as they come up for you. And if you're watching this recording later, feel free to add your questions in there as well. So let's start with text assets. How do we create great text assets in Google Ads in 2024? Well, first things first that I have to mention, CYB normally means cover your butt. Here I'm using it to mean cover your basics. You want to include your keywords in your headlines and descriptions if applicable. You want to have lots of variety for the algorithms to choose from. You want to make sure that text highlights the unique benefits of your offering, that you have variety, that there's call to action, et cetera, et cetera. That's the stuff we know. But what else? What else can we do to have really great high-performing text assets in Google Ads? I'm going to show you with some examples first before summarizing the points for you. So here's an example from Calendly of what I would consider a good text asset, free online appointment scheduling software. It's clear and simple language. It's very clear what's on offer here. If this is what I've searched for, I'm going to click on this ad. If this is not what I've searched for, I'm not going to click on this ad, but it's not trying to be overly flowery or punny or creative. It's clear, it's simple. Here's another example, and you'll notice a lot of the examples of ads I've been served are for kids products. You can guess what stage of life I'm in right now. So here, once again, we have nice, clear, and simple language. This is a Canadian brand called Jan and Jyll, biggest annual sale. Shop now. Thoughtfully designed by Canadian moms for kids who just grow too fast. This example will come back later, but I like this example of clear and simple language because clear and simple doesn't have to mean boring. There was definite thought and intention put behind the text we see here. It has the target audience in mind. It's relatable, kids who just grow too fast, but it's still very clear what's on offer here and what the benefits are. Now, here's an example of what I would consider not so clear language. And I just want to be very clear with the disclaimer. When I'm saying that certain examples are good or bad, I do not mean that these companies or their products or their Google Ads teams are good or bad. I'm just sharing some examples of what I've seen that I think illustrates what works well in 2024 and what maybe doesn't work as well in 2024. So in this text ad, the language is not so clear. Solutions for everybody. Closet staples created for everybody. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's not very clear. I'm not really sure what's going to happen when I click on this link, what it's going to take me to. We want to be much more clear and deliberate with our language and word usage. Next is something to keep in mind that can really be a problem now with so many automatically created assets, and the way responsive search ads put assets together is repetition or avoiding repetition. So in this example, we have a baby event. I would consider this a good example. Save up to 25% on select baby essentials for your little one. Excellent. Here's a not so good example. Mervish is a company in Toronto that puts on musicals. So Les Miserables musical. Tickets starting from $39. Les Miserables, Tony Award-winning musical. Tickets on sale. Les Miserables, the world's most popular musical. Tony-winning musical, right? And then the site link, Les Miserables, $39. So it's the same thing again and again and again, and it just looks weird. No one looked at the ad preview tool to see how these different headlines and descriptions and site links could appear together. We want to provide new information, additional information, lots of variety for the algorithm to choose from. Here's another example. I was in the Google Ads library. I looked up rare beauty, and I could see that regardless of what the ad was for, whether it was a hair mist or a bronzer stick or a highlighter, everything was highlighting this body lotion. Try our new lotion for free. Try our new lotion for free. Free body lotion for $50. I don't want a body lotion. I searched for hair mist. I searched for bronzer sticks. So again, an instance where that repetition is not so good. You want to make sure you're looking at how those building blocks go together to make sure you're getting across the point you want to get across. Next is character limits. My recommendations about how to use your character limits for headlines and descriptions has changed recently. I used to say use as much of your character limit as possible. For headlines, that's your 30 characters, or for demand gen 40 characters. For descriptions, that's your 90 characters. But stuff can get cut off now. You have to be a bit careful. So here's an example from Lululemon. I would say they've done a good job of using their character limits. Nothing wrong here, but you can see at the very end, this can get cut off. So that kind of second description there, our crossbody bags come with adjustable straps, comma, lots. We'll never know what there's lots of, but we've still gotten the point across in the beginning. They come with adjustable straps. That's a great feature to have for a crossbody bag. What can happen if you're not careful, this is an example from Air Canada, is look, earn Aeroplan points on every, what? What am I going to earn on every flight, on every purchase, on every what? And then with more frequent nonstop flights within Canada, we can get what? What can we get? So, well, you don't want to have super short headlines and super short descriptions. I no longer say you have to use the entire thing. You can use, 70 of your 90 description characters, for example, and that's fine. But you want to make sure you get to the point quickly, because especially in all the different responsive ways these can be used, they can get cut off. And in this instance, I would say for this headline and this description, the most important part of the ad got cut off, making this ad not as effective as it could be. And then next, you want to make it really obvious what you're selling. So here is an example from Supermetrics, which if you are familiar with Supermetrics, you know that this is probably a complicated product to try to explain what it does. But they say all your metrics in one place, the marketer's best friend. So those are two different ways which together really explain what Supermetrics does. Supermetrics automates data ingestion so you can focus, find, and act on the insights. So even if you're not totally familiar, you would now have a good idea of what it is that Supermetrics does. Here's another example for Squarespace. Claim your domain, Squarespace. The best websites start with the right domain. I'd argue this might be a bit misleading because now they have a piece of text that says start a website for free today. True, but you can't get a domain for free, and this is an ad about a domain. But again, for the most part, we're pretty clear here on what is being advertised. Here is an example of ad I was served where I would say it is not obvious what is being advertised. Immerse yourself in Disney animation. It's a whole new world of Disney animation. Immerse yourself in the, what the heck is this thing? If this has come to your town, maybe you've seen these ads everywhere, but like I still don't know what is Disney immersive experience. What does it do? This ad is not done a good way, either through the image or the text, of making that clear to me. So when we are creating great text assets, you want to make sure you're using clear and simple language. You want to make sure you're watching out for that repetition. You want to potentially undershoot your character limits a little bit and ensure you're getting to the point quite quickly in case they do get cut off, and then make it obvious what is being advertised. I'll say it again, the ad preview tool, I'm not even talking about ad preview and diagnosis tool, like within the responsive ad on the right-hand side, when it shows you all the different ways your ad can appear, that is your best friend. Make sure to take a look at that, and that the way the different building blocks you're making are going to work together effectively to get your message across. Next, we're going to look at how to create great image assets. And the basis for this section is actually a research study that Google conducted about what aspects of images perform best from a conversion perspective on discovery and through PMax. So let's take a look now, again, through examples and summarizing at the end. And a quick reminder, if you do have questions, please feel free to drop a comment and we'll get to those in a bit during our open discussion. So here, this ad comes back again because this is an example of a great image for many reasons. But what I want to highlight here is there's just a single focal point. And remember that the image assets you add to your campaigns can show in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different placements, a lot of different sizes and orientations. So you want to have one single focal point, which we do here. This ad is not so great, in my opinion. There are many things to look at here to the point that I don't even know what's being advertised. Is it the, wicker basket thing? Is it the cute trick, no tricks, just treats bag? Is it the puzzle? Is it all of them? I'm not sure. There's just so much going on here that it's unclear what this ad is for. There is not a single focal point. Next, again, I'm trying to reuse some of the same ads here to show you. Here, this image is centrally framed, and that is another best practice. Again, because of all the different ways your image ads can manifest through various placements and sizes in Google Ads, you want to make sure that you have a single focal point that is centrally framed. So you can see here that this person looking out over the vista, you could crop this in a variety of ways, and it's still going to look good because the main point of the picture is right in the center. As opposed to this ad, where is the purpose Bambi? Is the purpose the Disney logo? I think I see some shadows of people on the right. I don't know. It is not centrally framed. And if the text on it as well, this would not look good if it ended up getting cropped or moved around. So not a good example of central framing. Next, you want to make sure that we are using real humans. So here's an ad from Mervish advertising the musical 6. We'll put the text to the side for now, but this image, very compelling, right? This performer belting something out. If I'm someone who's interested in musicals, as I am, this is going to capture my attention. A real human doing or using or exemplifying the product or service. Compared to this picture for the CNE. So this is another event. Well, this is an overview picture of what the event looks like. I don't really see humans here. I mean, yes, we can see there's hundreds of humans in this picture, but there's no human for me to connect to and understand what's going on here. Wouldn't it have been so much more powerful to show me much closer in a human on one of the rides, a human eating cotton candy, something really central that I can focus on that's going to entice me to want to learn more about this event. Next, we want to show products in a real life context. So in this example from Lululemon, we're advertising the backpack, but it's not a backpack floating in space. It's a backpack being held by someone, so there is a human here, but the point's not the human or the outfit this person's wearing, which is probably also Lululemon. It's about the backpack and showing how well it can fit into your life. So real life context, the products or services being used in a real life context, as opposed to the floating in space. At least this isn't kind of the plain white background stark e-commerce image. But this one is not as effective because although it shows the product in a few different colors, maybe artfully arranged, it's sitting in a void. And the images that perform best in 2024 are ones that show your products or services in real life context and used by humans. Finally, text overlay. Is it good? Is it bad? Google's own research tells us that you want minimal or no text overlay on your images. This is different than if you run meta ads, for example, where this can be something you might want to do. So here in this example, we have Best Buy baby event. A little bit of text to make it very clear what this is about, and that's it. And that's important because maybe if we didn't have that context right on the image, I might think, ooh, that's a cute headband. Ooh, I might want to buy that romper. But it's clear what this ad is about is some kind of baby event from Best Buy, and I can click through there to learn more. Whereas this example from ClickFunnels hurts my eyes. Sorry, ClickFunnels. I genuinely don't know where to look first. I see a lot of free, right? But there's just so much text going on, plus the text assets, of course, that go with this image that I have no idea what to look at first. So to summarize, when you want to create great image assets, you want to make sure you have a single focal point, centrally framed, showing real humans in a real life context with minimal or no text overlay. Now, last but not least, it's time to look at what creates great video assets. And we're actually going to watch some videos together. Unfortunately, running videos through StreamYard is quite complicated. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to paste the link for various videos for you to watch in the comments. If you want to open a new tab, watch it and come back, you can do that now. Or if you want to just save those links to watch later, you can do that too. It's completely up to you. So let's go to this first video. I'm going to take the link. So if you do want to watch it now, you can do so. Oh, I need to join the chat. Uh-oh, it's not letting me. One moment, technical difficulties. Yes, I want to join the chat. Yes, I want to allow StreamYard to let me do that. Da, 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 da. Oh, good. Okay. So video one. Oh, it has me appearing as someone I don't want to be. Wrong chat. Okay, I'm going to ask for a little technical assistance from Sarah here. It logged me in under a client instead of myself, and I don't want to paste as a client. So I am pasting a link here for Sarah in our private chat to put into the comments for you all to see. Not the most smooth process, but we roll with it. So this is video number one. If you want to open and watch it in a new tab just for like 10 seconds and then come back to me. And I'm going to play it here where you will see it, but not hear it before we keep going. All right. So if you've just watched it or not, come back to me. So this, as we saw, is a shorts video. It has those kind of Hormozy style captions on it. And this is the first point. When you're creating a great video asset, you want to create for mobile first. 70% of YouTube watch time comes from mobile devices. Now, does this mean that every single one of your ads needs to be a short? No. In fact, the rest of the ads I'm going to show you today's examples are not specifically YouTube Shorts. But when we create our video ads, we are almost always creating them on desktop and creating them, with that mindset. Remind yourself frequently that most people who see your ads will be seeing them on a mobile device. So even if it's not a shorts ad specifically, if there's text on screen, you want it to be big enough. Some of the aspects we talked about for creating great image ads will also apply here. Better to have a single focal point centrally framed so it'll look good on a small screen rather than lots of different things going on. Okay, the next ad we're going to look at here, pasting it here for Sarah, who will paste it all for you to see. So again, just watch the first kind of 15 seconds and then come back. All right, you can come on back if you're watching that video now. So if you were watching that video now, you will have not heard any talking, but heard lots of different sounds. It's really setting up an atmosphere of intrigue there. And I chose this video example to show you because one thing that sets YouTube apart specifically from a lot of other platforms where you run video ads is more than 95% of YouTube videos are watched with sound on. Sound is so important for YouTube ads. And when you compare that to Meta ads, for example, I don't know the specific sound on or off numbers, but I think we could all imagine that the majority of Instagram or Facebook video ads are watched with sound off because the sound is off by default and people need to choose to turn the sound on. Whereas YouTube is the opposite. Sound is on by default, and very few people, 5%, are going to be watching YouTube with the sound off. So you want to make sure when you're creating that video ad, especially if you're repurposing it from something you've run on another platform, that you are taking full advantage of sound and how that can enhance the experience for the viewer. Third example, this is my only really old example because I think this is from like a decade ago, but it's still one of my favorite YouTube campaigns ever. I'm going to paste the link here for Sarah, and she will share it with you, and you can watch the whole thing. It's just about 15 seconds long. All right, the link is there if you do want to watch this right now. Oh, replay. All right, and let's come back. So you can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over. This is a saying that if you worked in this industry about a decade ago, you'll probably remember this example. But it's a great one because what Geico did here is they're an insurance provider, right? It's not really like they're trying to increase brand awareness. They're just trying to stay top of mind so that when it's your turn to buy insurance, you think of Geico before someone else. And so you can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over. They're playing with the idea that most people want to skip YouTube ads, right? They're waiting the 6 seconds hovering to click skip ad. So they make sure that those first 6 seconds are really attention grabbing and they get their point across. And then if you do stay, you're rewarded with something funny happening, the dog jumping up and eating the spaghetti. So this is a great example of hooking attention early and fast. This example, as I said, is about a decade old now. You had 6 seconds before people would skip. Now, I would say attention spans have gotten even shorter with short form video platforms like TikTok. You have 1, maybe 2 seconds max to hook attention. So this is not like a TV commercial where someone has to sit through the whole thing and you can take time to build to the point. When you're creating a great video asset for YouTube, you want to start at the peak of your story and then work your way down from there. Hook attention fast and early. Next, we're going to look at an example from Google. So let me paste this link in for Sarah to assist me here. She will share that link with all of you. And again, we just need to watch about 15 seconds of it. All right. So coming back to me now, if you're watching that ad now, the key part here is that Google branded this ad very early. It's normal in ads to include maybe your logo or your brand somewhere, but the voiceover actually said Google and Google Pixel specifically, because that's the product we're advertising here, within the first 6 seconds. And so the takeaway here, when you're creating a great video asset that's going to perform well, you want to make sure you're not just showing your brand, but that we actually hear your brand as well. If you're a brand like, I don't know, Netflix, you're the ba-dum, like there's certain sounds associated with your brand, you'll want to include those too. Most of us mere mortals do not have sounds associated with our brand, but you want a human to say the name of your brand within the first 6 seconds, because Google's own research shows that this helps with ad recall, which is, of course, one of the many things we want people to do as a result of our video ads. I have 2 more ads for you to watch today. Here is our second last example. I'm going to paste the ad in here for Sarah to share with all of you. And again, you just need to watch the first 10 to 15 seconds and then come on back. Okay, there's the link. We'll play a little bit of it from the beginning. You can come on back now if you're watching that ad with me. So don't we all wish we had the budget to hire Julia Roberts to be in our video ads? But that was not the point we're making here. Something this ad does well is creating emotion early. So right at the beginning, we see Julia Roberts, we recognize here, but then she's saying something kind of self-deprecating. Her and the host are having a laugh. I can't help but smile when I watch that. And then it moves on to this kind of emotional music that's like really making me feel something. So if you want to create a really great video asset, you want to make your audience feel something. You do not need to make them feel something emotional, which is to say something like sappy and heart-wrenching. Humor is an emotion. Surprise is an emotion. Disgust is an emotion. It can be any emotion, but again, YouTube's own research shows that when you get people to feel something, it increases their consideration for your brand or product because you made them feel that emotion as part of the ad. So as you're building your storyboarding or whatever your process is for creating a video asset, think about what kind of emotion do we want to generate with our audience to really help create that connection. And then last but not least, for this ad, I'd like you to actually watch the final 20 seconds for me. So just kind of skip ahead and watch the end of it rather than the beginning. I'm going to paste the link in here for Sarah, who will then share it with you. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your help. And then if you can just watch the last kind of 20 seconds of this one. And then come on back to me. That's the last of the jumping back and forth. So what this ad does very well at the end is it tells the viewer exactly what to do. Like if you're someone who did not skip this ad, you chose to watch the ad, you made it to the end, what now? Just go on and watch the piece of content you were trying to watch? Sure. But like you're probably pretty interested. What can you do? You can go to this website. You can join this program. You can find out more ways to help your daughter with these issues, right? So it's being very clear about exactly what should happen next. Another tactic I've seen in great video assets is towards the end of the ad, they'll show someone actually Googling on their phone, right, the product or service. So that's another interesting thing you can do to direct them, like, go look us up. You're at your computer right now. Find out more about us. You want to direct them to a clear action. So to summarize all those points for you alongside the video ads we just saw, when you're creating a great video asset, you want to design for mobile first. You want to have sound on, since 95% of YouTube views happen with sound on. You want to hook attention quickly, yes, within the first 6 seconds before people skip, if it's a skippable format, but ideally even within the first 2 to 3 seconds. You want to make sure people can not just see, but also hear your brand. If you are having some kind of voiceover or people on screen talking, have them say the name of your brand early. You want to create connection with emotion, whatever that emotion might be. And you want to make sure you're telling that interested viewer what they can do next. So to summarize, if you're someone who likes to take screenshots of webinars, here's the screenshot for you. Here are 15 specific things that you can do to create great ad assets in an AI-first world, making sure you're making the best use of text, the best use of imagery, and the best use of video to drive the best results for your business. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I am excited to flip over to the discussion section of the conversation. And if you do want to continue the conversation with me after that, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads, actually, where I'm the Google Pro, or on LinkedIn, Jyll Saskin Gales.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. And I think I've said before that, it's very helpful in these webinars just to be able to learn from experts like you. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to be watching the comments here. So if you guys have questions and you're watching live, feel free to add them. I think we had one question that came up around the Calendly. The question, it was such a long headline. It seemed longer than 30 characters. And so really, do you have any insight onto that?
Yeah, I don't have like a specific, this is exactly what the Calendly headline is. But I have seen some things like this happening since Performance Max launched. So I'm not saying necessarily that Calendly is running Performance Max. I don't work with them, so I don't know. But anecdotally, I have seen some headlines like this where they do look longer than a headline should be. And I've only seen that happen in the last kind of 2 years or so since Performance Max launched. And I usually see it with a company like Calendly, who, again, I have no insider information about their ads program, but I would imagine they have, a pretty decent ads budget as a B2B SaaS there. So that would be my hypothesis, is that somehow Performance Max is getting to do something creative there, because you're absolutely right. Free online appointment scheduling software is longer than 30 characters. It's probably even longer than 40 if somehow demand gen could have been an explanation, though of course demand gen doesn't run in search. So either it's a dynamically generated headline probably, which means it could be DSA or PMAX would be my best guess.
Yeah, no, I've seen the exact same thing on my end running big budget PMAX. We were talking about that before the webinar. You see a lot when you run these big budget campaigns. And the thing I noticed, and I'd be curious your take on this, and then we have some more questions coming in. I noticed particularly in Skims and a couple of others, the mixed cases. And so when I audit accounts, I tend to say just do all title case because Google's mixing more and more. Do you have an opinion on that?
Interesting. I don't say, my personal preference is to use title case for headlines, so like capitalizing every word, and then normal sentence case for descriptions. But the most important thing is to be consistent, right? So whatever you choose, just always do it that way. And then be mindful if you're using something like dynamic keyword insertion, the default for a dynamic keyword insertion, I believe it picks sentence case as the default. I have to double check, but you have options there as well. So it will look really weird if you like dynamically insert a keyword that's all lowercase in a headline that otherwise has capitalization. So just try to be consistent. And actually, I was auditing a Google Ads account last night. I just did a Google Ads account audit, and a lot of their headlines, it was all lowercase, like no capitals at all. Like they just sort of typed it in, and I was like, please change whether you do sentence case or title case. Not good to start a headline with all lowercase. So consistency is key.
Yeah, and Melissa, who's in the chat and attending, thanks for being here, Melissa. She posted the exact what you need to put in there for the keyword insertion, and so if anyone needs that, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa.
And then we have a question. I'm going to get to this one first. Your summary slide. So I'm going to put your slides back up here.
Sure.
Because it was asked if we put that.
Yes, happy to do that. Let me flip to the right one. There we go. Ta-da! Right, so yes, please feel free to screenshot. If you are going to share, please just give credit where credit is due. But yes, I really hope this helps you create better ads. This is some hard-won knowledge and some insider knowledge I'll put together for you.
And I'll leave that up for a little while we start to answer the other questions. So Riley had a question. I'm going to try to read it verbatim, but interpret as well. So in cases where targeting options aren't sufficient to speak to the target, right? So we don't have that control in Google. I figure that a text overlay is probably needed to differentiate in between who the ad is for and who the ad is not for. That's a great question for you, because you talk a lot about this on your social platforms, is you need to reach who you want to and not who you don't. So I'd love to hear your perspective there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Riley has heard me say this before as well, but like great ads appeal to your target audience and don't appeal to your not target audience. And that's more important than ever today, especially with, uh, I'll say we have less control over our targeting than ever before. So the ad creative itself needs to do the targeting, which, by the way, if you talk to a meta ads expert, they'll tell you the same thing on their platform, that all the detailed targeting options are going away and that the creative is your targeting. And all people mean, they don't literally mean your creative determines if it's your marketing or in market. What they mean is your creative will speak to certain people and not speak to certain people. And that will inform those targeting algorithms to go out and find more people like the people who are interested in your creative. So to come back to what Riley says, yes, some text overlay can be helpful if your image itself isn't enough to properly guide the targeting. And so I think the Best Buy baby event example I shared is a great example of that. You know, Best Buy could have shown a picture of a baby monitor, but like a baby monitor doesn't look so interesting. And if you're pregnant or a new parent, like you may not recognize right away what a baby monitor is. So instead, they showed a mother with this baby, a happy lifestyle picture. But if they had just shown that, it would not be clear until you got to the text part what this ad is for. And maybe it's being run through PMAX, so they had no idea when and where it was going to run. So they just put Best Buy, their logo, and then baby event on it. So now I know I'm not clicking on this to buy the baby clothes or to buy baby formula or whatever it might be. If I click on this, I'm going to see like some kind of baby products that have to do with technology because it's Best Buy. So that's a great way to use that minimal text overlay.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And then Riley was also asking, especially to kind of dovetail off of this question, is there a rule of thumb with that text overlay, like no more 25%, or do you fall back on anything?
I don't have a specific like number to give you. This comes from some internal Google documentation that they've shared with some of their top clients about what works best with image assets. And so their specific advice is just to have no text overlay or keep it minimal. They don't say exactly how much minimal is. So no further guidance than just minimal, and to what we were just talking about, kind of only if really needed. What you don't want is a ton of text all over it. That's likely not going to be as effective. And if I may, I saw someone earlier was critiquing me saying, well, how does she know if these ads perform well or not? Like, that's not the point I'm trying to make here today. I haven't said this is an ad that performs well and this doesn't. These are the best practices that work well across a lot of different advertisers. Are there going to be outliers and exceptions? Absolutely. Human behavior is weird. So I'm not saying that any ad I've showed you is a top performing ad or a poor performing ad. What I am saying is based on either my experience or Google's research or both, this is likely to perform well and this is likely to not perform as well. But, you know, metrics are what metrics are. And of course, we're surprised by data all the time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. Now, would you say, because I think, and also I encourage anyone to still be asking questions. I just love being able to ask them when there aren't any floating through here. So, would you say with the movement, and this is especially leaning into your expertise with video, that we are going to become more and more like UGC focused versus, because a lot of the examples you had were big budgets, especially Geico, obviously.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I always want to show examples of like smaller, low budget ads, but it's harder to find those, right? It's hard, easier now than it used to be with the Google Ads library. But the first ad I showed, super low budget. It's a brand I'd never heard of before, even. It is easier than ever to create video, thanks to, I would say, TikTok really led the way with that. Even though, even if you're just using TikTok organically, like, or you're using Instagram Reels or whatever it might be, we're all more adept at creating video than we used to be. The tools to create video are much more accessible than they used to be. Even like the video creator in Google Ads has been around for more than a year now. It's not going to create the sexiest, snazziest Super Bowl commercials, but it gets the job done. So the kind of UGC, more authentic feeling ad creative is absolutely something you should be testing. And with video, I would say it's better to test it, that like it's better to have a video than no video, even if it's not such a good video. And so even if you have little to no budget, the tips I share today, like designing for sound on, mentioning the brand early, starting with high attention, these are things that you can do with a $0 budget or $1 million budget. And believe me, there are a lot of $1 million ads that do not meet these best practices either.
Yeah. No, and I found the sound on comment very interesting because my son, he actually has a TikTok with like 16,000 followers and told me the absolute opposite. He said, well, people might be listening with no sound because his perspective is he's in his bedroom at night listening with no sound. And so it's just really interesting, that generational flip. Oh, it's a metric to watch. And I think you and I have been doing this so long, I remember we used to report on mobile going up and saying, more and more traffic is going to mobile. And now today it's, to your point, mobile first. So speaking of that, today versus the future, where do you see AI playing a part? Because right now it doesn't bring in a lot of what you talked about with that emotional piece, which is a key part of everything you talked about today with ads.
Yeah, AI, it's sexy, it's snazzy, it's the hot new thing. It's not totally new, but because of ChatGPT launching a little over a year ago, generative AI is like newly into the public consciousness still. The promise is really there, but the actual like day-to-day of it is not quite there yet. Like I think we live in this bubble. We're like, oh my goodness, AI, it's everywhere, it's taking over everything. But if you just zoom out a little bit, like most people are not using AI in this way. And most people aren't able to spot an AI image or AI generated video or whatever in the same way. So is AI helpful in the ad creation process? Absolutely, it can be. For ideation, I think is a great way to use it now. The way Google uses AI to mix and match different assets together and try to find the best converting combinations, like brilliant, love that, right? That's great. But it still needs something to work off of. Like in my opinion, I guess I'd call this an opinion, we're not in a place where most people can effectively just say like, here's my website, here's my money, go, and let AI do completely whatever it wants with ad asset generation. I don't think as of right now that would go very well for most brands unless you already have a really well built out website and feed and all the stuff for it to feed off of, which most businesses don't. So there's still and if they do, it's because they have a really great creative department. So it all comes back to the building blocks, these assets, which are created by humans with some AI assist. Is it always going to be that way? I don't know. Like we've seen AI can be creative, but AI also does some really dumb stuff. It's artificially intelligent. It doesn't fully understand humans. And when you have an experience where you interact with something AI and it becomes obvious it's AI, like that's really jarring.
Right.
And it's more like that bad experience is really what I look to avoid. Sorry if that was a bit on a tangent.
No, that was absolutely perfect. So what would you say? I would love to sort of take apart your presentation and direct it towards, like, if you were talking to a day-to-day hands-on paid search manager who, joined the Paid Search Association, what would your kind of top 3 be for them to just maintain that success with their clients in this world with what you talked about today?
Like of all the various tips today, which do I think are kind of most important? Let me look back at it.
For somebody very day-to-day, hands-on in Google, what can they do?
And
I can show it again too.
I think the most important one is clear and simple language.
Yeah.
Clear and simple does not mean easy. Simple, not easy. I've seen people say that before. I can't take credit for that line, but it's really hard to write well. And I actually think it's like easier to write an essay than to write a good Google search ad, right? So keeping your language clear and simple, not trying to get overly creative or flowery, making sure you get to the point, like building those copywriting skills is such an important skill. And historically, I don't think copywriting was an important skill for Google Ads managers to have. Now, I absolutely think it is. And so if that's not something that comes naturally to you, it could be worth investing in either someone to mentor you or some training or just studying up yourself on different frameworks, etc. So I think that clear and simple language is like the most important part from the text portion. I think from the image portion, if you want to have better image ads, just humans.
Yeah.
Keep it human, whether that means having humans in the ad, having the real life context we talked about, just like you're trying to have something that will appeal to another human, right? So remember the humanity. That is kind of the one takeaway for having great image assets. And then for video, I know there's so many different ones here. I think I'll come back to something I actually said earlier, which is my best tip for video if you're kind of a newer ads manager is just start testing. It's better to have something than nothing. The first 10 videos you create will probably all be crap, but they're going to get incrementally better as you learn. And you do not need a fancy video producer, though great for you if you have one. Like just start experimenting. You can use Google's free video creator. You can use Canva to create free video ads. There are AI tools out there to create video ads. Just start testing and they'll get better and better over time.
Yeah, and I like that, especially because you contextualize that for the day-to-day, the person day-to-day operating this, because a lot of times when we're working with clients, we need to be able to hold their hand through this process. So now that we've talked about for the day-to-day paid search manager, what would you tell the decision maker who maybe isn't in the day-to-day as much as we are, if you were talking to them about where we're going?
But where we're going.
Yeah, like with I mean, this is the landscape that we're at making these ads. So
yes, I think, assuming that this is a big assumption,
right.
they're bought into the idea that like not everything needs to be AI generated, right?
Yeah.
And AI generated, let's use ChatGPT for it. But at the same time, like AI is becoming more and more important. If I were in front of a decision maker, I would want them to understand the importance of investing in their creative. So many people, oh, the social media intern, they can do it. Or, oh, you're running the ads. Here, just write some copy. Like you can do that, right? But if you have the budget, or if you don't have the budget, you could make the budget to like either hire a copywriter or invest in training for your team to be copywriters, to hire a graphic designer, or to invest in training your team to be better graphic designers, to invest in video production, or invest in your team and training them with the skills, to help in video production, because this is the lever that's going to make the biggest difference. And actually, again, it's funny having this conversation now. The audit I did last night, the client said that their biggest challenge was rising CPCs and competition. But when I looked at it, I'm like, well, actually, your biggest challenge is your ad creative. It's really not good. I didn't use those words. But basically, like the ad creative, and it was only search, that was so poor, in my opinion, that was why their click-through rates were lower than competitors. And like the ads were not relevant. So people weren't clicking. So they had to pay more per click because their ad rank was lower. So like they thought the problem was, oh, CPCs are rising and dang Google. And it's like, well, no, there's very tangible things you can do here. You need better ads because humans don't want to click on these. And I can see why when you look at it from a human perspective. So anyway, speaking to decision makers, that is a narrative most people don't think about. They think, oh, my CPCs are higher. We need to adjust our bidding. We need to adjust our targeting. But the creative is the only part of the ad the user actually sees. It has such outsized impact on whether the ad's going to be successful or not. And yet, I think anecdotally, it's the most ignored part of it's such an afterthought. Let's set up the campaign and pick the settings and pick the targeting, and I'll just come back and fill out the ad part later.
No, I had the exact same experience like you had, and it was a simple misalignment in between the call to action of the ad into the landing page, right? And I think when those two things are misaligned, it's never a silver bullet anymore, but it's the low-hanging fruit, taking you back to sort of paid search. I hate saying best practices,
I know.
but
it's best practice.
It's best practice, right? So say what you want them to do and then take them to a page that asks them to do that.
Right. So I think about if you're like, I'm in the mood for ice cream, and you go to a store and you're like, oh, an ice cream shop, and you walk inside and they only sell burgers.
Right.
Like, what? Okay, I'm leaving. And then they're like, dang, it's so much harder to get burger customers than it used to be. Like, what?
Exactly. Oh, no, 100%. So what about when you are working with your clients? Do you personally leverage the AI tools, or do you do a mix? Like, how do you handle it with your process?
Yeah, so I don't manage ads for clients
Right. Yeah.
anymore. I coach and consult. And so I think it's great to use generative AI, we'll just call it AI, but I'm meaning generative AI when I say that, as a tool. So, we could say to it, like, here are my keywords. Can you come up with 30, responsive search ad headlines or 50 descriptions? And then, iterate, oh, can they be more like this? Can they be more like that? Am I, there's all kinds of things, prompting, et cetera. That's a whole other conversation. So like as a helpful tool, absolutely, you can use it that way. Would I type into Chat GPT, like, here's my keywords, write my responsive search ad, take that ad, paste it in, not look at it again? Like, no, I would not do that. But it can be a great assist, or even with video, like it wouldn't create the video, but I could give it ideas like, my target audience is this, and I need 30-second YouTube ad that's going to get across this key message, give me a few ideas for like what the story could look like or kinds of imagery, whatever. And it can give you ideas. So it's like a really good assist. But you, the human, should still be in that driver's seat, because whatever you put into the AI is what you're going to get out of the AI. It still has to come from you. If you just tell it, make a YouTube ad, it's not going to make a great YouTube ad.
Yeah, no, I've had the exact same experience. And for me, a lot of it is what you said, or just bucketing. So if you take sort of
Mm.
basically a long list of headlines, for example, and then have it categorize it in terms of themes, because I think you hit on this early on in your talk, is you really want to have those benefits, calls to there's different components that make up the sort of puzzle that an RSA puts together, and you can quickly go through and make sure you've included all those components by using AI to categorize for you.
Yes, that reminds me, a great tip I saw someone share. I'm so sorry, I don't remember who said this. It's not me who came up with it, but a great thing you can also do is take like all your customer reviews and feed them into Chat GPT,
Wow.
and then to like, based on this, write headlines. So like your keywords aren't the only source material to use. Using either like testimonials or reviews, and then based on that, having it create things can also be really helpful. So credit to someone who said that on LinkedIn, and I thought it was brilliant.
That is absolutely brilliant. I should absolutely consider that. No, super, super helpful. What about the B2B space? I love throwing you the challenging questions. So,
Yeah.
how about this? As you're coaching, what would you tell someone in B2B who is going to come tell you, I don't have everything that you listed, video doesn't apply to me? They're going to throw everything. I know how I would answer, so I'd love to hear yours.
B2B doesn't, video doesn't apply to me because I'm B2B is absolutely false. I can only think back to my Google sales days where there were whole decks and all research and studies about how important video is to the B2B purchasing journey. But no, the key thing I say when people are like, oh, I'm B2B, it's different. I'm B2B, that doesn't apply to me, is like, B2B doesn't mean that me, the monolith of Google, is trying to sell a product to you, the monolith of P&G, right? Like, people work at companies. There's a person there. There's someone assistant there who's reviewing it, or someone's manager, or someone has to go to a decision maker. These are all real people who do real people things in addition to working at a company. And so it comes back to kind of my image advice is like, remember the humans. So like, video can absolutely work and be extraordinarily powerful in the B2B journey, especially because often the B2B purchasing journey can be much longer because there are all these different people involved in that decision. It's not like the consumer purchasing journey where often you just need to convince the one person to buy. Maybe they double check with, a partner, whatever it might be, but that's it. In B2B, there can be all different decision makers. So you can have content, whether that's paid or organic content, that appeals to all those different people. You might have different messages for all of them. It can get quite complicated if you let it, but using a digital platform like Google Ads, you can really segment and reach people in all these different ways. So I think everything we've talked about today is especially important for B2B and especially powerful for B2B. Even like letting the creative do the targeting. I know with my Inside Google Ads course members, where a lot of folks who work with B2B in there, we talk about that a lot. Like, it's even more important in the B2B context that your ad does not appeal to your not target audience, because you don't want all those consumers coming through. So like, the more specific and the more niche, the better. So yes, if you're in a B2B context, I would say all this is even more important for you, because you have that additional challenge of trying to weed through to the right kind of intent.
Yeah, and your Supermetrics one, I thought was an absolutely perfect example of a text ad that did exactly that. And I say that all the time when I'm talking to B2B clients. You don't want people clicking on your ad who are not in the market for your product. And we're purposely going to design that ad with some technical jargon and enough. And then also just add to that. Um, it'll be very transparent if the ad copywriter doesn't know that they're writing to some. It can almost like cross that line to being insulting if it's very clear that it's not for that intended audience.
Yeah, like if I saw an ad that was advertised to me and it mentioned AdWords, I'd
Right.
like immediately write it off. And if I
Exactly.
saw an ad that mentioned like T-ROAS, or
Right.
I'd be like, ooh,
Yes.
most
Yes.
people would not be interested. Good. If you don't know what
Yes.
T-ROAS means, it's not for you.
Right.
So it does have that dual benefit. And that's where we had my Inside Google Ads monthly meet just before this. I'm thinking about that conversation. If an asset is like best performing or low performing, that's
Right.
just CTR
Yes.
performance.
Yes.
So it might be that you have an asset that's low performing according to Google, but it's actually your best asset because it's the most specific and speaking straight to your target audience. So yes, the CTR is lower, but that's going to guide the targeting so that over time you'll find more of those people and less of the people who are attracted to the best performing asset because it's more generic and appeals to a lot more people who are not potentially your target audience.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. I think you in particular have a unique ability to understand that in depth since you run B2B video organically for your own business
Yeah.
with your TikTok, because that is exactly correct. You will see some of the lowest views with the highest sort of engagement, comments, saves, which is the
Yeah.
metric. And so it doesn't add up, but it does. And
Whereas the
so,
videos with 100,000 organic
right.
views on TikTok, that's great. It brings great discussion and attention, but like I don't get clients from those,
Right.
but it's fun.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's interesting how that organic side makes you so much better at PPC for really having that nuanced perspective,
Thank
if
you.
that makes sense. So I guess my last question would be for anyone who sort of wants to learn more about Google Ads. We have paid search organization. What would you advise for them?
Anyone who wants to learn more about Google Ads, well, I'll do the not plug and then I'll do the plug.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, good. So great free resources to learn more about Google Ads. There are some really great communities, of course, Paid Search Association, excellent community to be a part of, great Slack community. Julie Bacchini leads PPC Chat, which you'll find on Slack and Discord. Great place to learn and meet like-minded professionals. A podcast I really enjoy is the Today in Digital Marketing podcast. That's how I honestly keep up to date on a lot of my digital marketing industry news. And then to learn Google Ads, I offer a Google Ads for Beginners course, and then my Inside Google Ads membership for intermediate to advanced practitioners. And I also offer one-on-one Google Ads coaching for business owners, but also for a lot of marketers, agencies. So you can learn more about that at jyll.ca.
That is absolutely perfect. And then also these webinars that we do on a regular basis as part of Paid Search Association. So I think that was exactly what I was looking for. So thank you so much. And so since we have 2 minutes left, I'm going to go ahead and bring on the information about our sponsors. So again, we heavily would not be here today without our sponsors, which are Jumpfly, Clever Programmatic, as well as AdWorld Experience. And thank you for sponsoring us, for staying tuned, and make sure that you follow Jyll on all the channels and reach out to us with questions. If you're watching us live or on the replay, we are absolutely here for you. And then also the Slack channel as well that she mentioned. Do you have any final last thoughts with a minute to go, a couple 30 seconds?
Final thoughts for you. Just reiterating, creative is more important than ever. Neglect it, and your ad results will show that you've been neglecting it. So don't forget about your creative.
Well, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for everyone who joined us today, and have an absolutely amazing rest of the day. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.